All right, mid-November, and it is chilly. You can tell winter is on our heels. Ooh, it's also windy. I hope you can hear me. So driving up here, I had a plan in terms of things I wanted to get done, but it occurred to me that a year ago I started filming my the tour of the land, and I didn't finish because it snowed, and it kind of isn't really a tour if you can't see anything. Everything looked the same. So I guess we might as well start with the road here. Not that exciting, but the brook is right over there, probably about 60 feet ahead of me. And then all of this is my car. You can see the camp road, and then if this goes down another 440 feet, I think, of road frontage. Again, not very exciting. The sign my friend made me, however, love this. All right, so let's start heading this way so that we don't have to deal with the cars. I'll start by explaining that this was an old logging road. The last time it was used as a logging road was, I think, 107 or 8 years ago. I forget exactly, but it was a little over 100 years. So this was kind of a mess. There were a ton of trees that had fallen down on it. It was easier to walk through the woods to kind of explore. So the first thing I did when I bought the land was to show up with a chainsaw, loppers, and a garden cart. Literally built the garden cart on the street because there was no flat space in here. Right now you can see there's a giant pile of stone. I don't know if you can tell it's stone because it's covered in leaves, but I had this delivered. This was the first winter, second winter. And the plan was to bring a bunch of stone down to the base camp area so I could build a ground pack platform for a wall tent, which, for those of you who have already watched my videos, you know that didn't happen because in the spring, after carrying 15,000 pounds of stone down to the campsite, sledding it, I wasn't carrying it, I realized it was way too wet. So I did a raised platform, and you'll see that on the tour. I had to build this little extension here to bring lumber and stuff in because it was easier than moving that pile, which is going to stay there until I use it. And I bought a ton of extra because the delivery cost is high, so it just seemed silly not to get more. I'll use it at some point. You can kind of see to the side that there's trees falling in little piles of brush still. I've burned so many of these piles, and friends have been kind enough to carry them down. Let's see, I've got a sled here that I often use. A couple of sleds hidden throughout the land for different purposes. All right, so this is the first. This site actually isn't unnamed, which is kind of funny because I've named like everything. But this is the Sacopee Trail. This trail used to be the snowmobilers trail. The Sacopee Valley Snowdrifters is the club up here, and that's why I named it the Sacopee Trail. Unfortunately, my neighbor to the south has restricted his land, so they no longer use, and more importantly for me, maintain this trail. So we'll go down this in a bit, but you'll see it's really overgrown because I just haven't had the time to make it a priority, but I will at some point. This is why it's a good thing to have snowmobile clubs, because they take care of your land and trails for you if they're allowed to use them. Oh well. So before we go a whole lot further, I should probably back up and explain, why am I doing this? It goes back to when I was a kid. When I was 14, I went to a residential camp for 2 weeks, YMCA Camp Coniston. And the experience changed my life in so many ways. I grew more in those 2 weeks than I think I have cumulatively the rest of my life. And it was such a meaningful time. It was something I think so fondly of. And when I think about why it was so impactful, it really came down to two things. It came down to being in nature, and it also came down to the relationships, all of the people, the campmates, the other staff. When I was a counselor there, I spent about 10 years either as a camper or counselor at that camp. And so I was trying to recreate that about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, I forget. And I created an event called an open invite camping trip. And this event, I would bring enough gear for a lot of people. I have a lot of gear. I've been camping my whole life, and so lots of gear. And I would invite everybody. I brought all the food, all the gear you could possibly need. Everything was taken care of, from sunscreen to bug spray to beach chairs, really all of it. And so probably over the course of the 10 years, I had, I don't know, 30, 40 different people come up at different times, sometimes for a night or just a day, and sometimes for the whole week. It was really awesome because you'd have different people from different times in my life, whether it's work or high school or the friend or the husband of a good friend of mine in one case. It was always neat to pull these different people together, and for one night you become best friends. You have to, because you don't have an alternative. There's no other group of people to hang out with. And people are more honest, they're more real when you're sitting by a campfire in the middle of the woods. And so I've always enjoyed that. And that trip was great, and that was really all I needed until some years ago. Going back to camp, when I was a counselor, probably 16 or 17 years old, I was in a cabin that had a camper named Peter Logan. And he was a great kid. We always had debates all night long while I was dyeing my hair purple and orange and green, or whatever the mood felt right. Kids, right, at that time. And we reconnected on Facebook, and he had posted this land he had somehow acquired or was using, I think in Patagonia, and he toured the land and really was showing everybody where he was going to do different things and what it was going to look like. He was, I think, doing more of like a homestead type situation. But after watching that video, I just fell in love and thought, how amazing would it be to start with something completely raw and just imagine its future and make it come to life. And so I immediately started looking at land, because what I wanted to do was kind of merge that open invite camping trip into kind of a campground, basically, that my friends and family would come to. My long-term hope is that when there's more infrastructure and it's more comfortable, that I could possibly come up here and there could be other people. It could be friends or family, or it could be their friends or family. But the idea that for one night we'd be friends, right? Sit by the campfire, be honest, be real, and just enjoy what nature gives to us all. So that will take some time, although coronavirus has certainly helped, because everybody wants to come up now. It's the only place you can really be outside and have fun and not have to worry about touching things that everybody else is touching. So it's gotten quite popular. That's also why you haven't seen too many videos, because there's been a lot of people of late. But I'm really excited about this property and what we're going to do to it. And I say we're because so many of my friends have helped and pitched in and joined the fun. But I'll give you a tour of where we're at right now. Again, all of this was just a raw forest, so I wish I'd gotten a before tour, but the reality is you've probably seen a forest, so you get it. We'll go down the Sacopee Trail just a bit. I'm not sure how if you're going to be able to see this, but there's a lot of tall trees that almost are like a semicircle. You see that? And then all of these trees here are probably, you know, up to 30 feet tall. somewhere in the 15 to 30 feet range. These are all gonna ultimately come down. There will be a strip of trees right here along the Sacopee Trail to kind of separate that area that I'm clearing, and you'll see it better from another angle. That is Someday Field. Someday Field was named Someday Field because it's not a field, but it will be someday. I was originally going to change the name when it was a field, but it's been Someday Field for so long, it's going to be Someday Field forever, although it will be a field. Okay, we're back on Camp Road. You're looking at the Sacopee Trail again. We're going to head to the next, I guess, semi-noteworthy spot. Okay, this is what I'm calling right now Outhouse Spur, but once Someday Field is here, I'll probably change the name, because this will be the back entrance to Someday Field. The front entrance will come from the Sacopee Trail once the field is here. So you've all seen my outhouse. I moved the solar panels just to try to maximize what I could get from the sun. I have my extra panel up and running because I've got a battery in there that is probably full now because it's been up here for weeks. Another sled. I'm going to grab that sled so that when we go down to base camp... Ooh, that is sunny. I don't know if I'm going to be able to... I'll start from the other end. So you can kind of see this is where I have started to clear. So my objective was to get all the way to this leaning tree. So past this leaning tree is an old forest. I'm told what happened was there was a significant windstorm and it blew all the trees over. The old owners who own this property had a tree removal company come and remove all the dead trees, but then ultimately never did anything with the field. And as a result, you see all of this growth that's, you know, probably 5, 6, 7. I have no idea. I'm just guessing. But this is so far how far I've gotten in. You can see the outhouse down there. And then again, the high trees represent the boundary, because I'm obviously not cutting those things down. That's not anywhere near my skill level. And you can't see it this way because the land is a little bit hilled, but all of this will be cleared. And almost all the way out to the Sacopee Trail. It'll stop about 12 feet before you hit the Sacopee Trail. And the trees are going to be removed, but they're going to be replanted with a little bit more biodiversity than just what I have. Obviously native species only. So coming back out, if I don't trip and fall, because there's a billion little stumps from cutting the trees down with the loppers, you can see this Gargantuan brush burner from Proud Pyro. I have to say, this was a very smart purchase, because you get this guy going with a little bit of dry wood, get it really hot, and it gets hot quickly because of these slats. And you have to have 2 people. It's so efficient. You need 2 people to cut trees down, break them down into 4-foot chunks, and then toss them in the fire. They can be literally cut and in the fire, and that will go probably for about an hour and 20 minutes. And then you have to kind of load in some more dry just to get the heat back again. But this thing literally burned everything that I've cleared in this whole area. Well, not just me and a friend, in a matter of a day and a quarter. So this guy's great. I do want to set it up perhaps on blocks, because you can see it's a hill, so it's a little bit, it's not really as secure as it really should be. But yeah, so this is just the edge of Someday Field, and that's why the outhouse is up here. Okay, before I go to the car to get a load, because I'm not going down to base camp without at least one load. I have at least two this trip. Okay, this is Deer Junction. It's called Deer Junction because there's a trail cam and the deer gather here for meetings. It's really quite fun to watch. They come from that's the trail to the Saco. It's not finished, so you have to kind of figure it out. I need to mark it better. And then of course the trail to base camp, which kind of looks, it's like you're heading into a cave. And that's the thing about base camp, is it's really, the tree canopy blocks all of the light, so it's quite like damp all the time, and it's kind of like its own microclimate. When it's cold, it's warmer down there, and when it's hot, it's cooler down there. We've got my, I call this the lumber yard, right? This is where I put all of my lumber. Oh, I forgot to bring, I had a pallet I broke down that I was going to bring up, and I totally forgot. So this is Deer Junction. This is kind of where everything goes from. Obviously, you can get to Someday Field. It's the end of Camp Road. There will be a couple trails to the Saco. That's the, actually that leads to both the primary and the secondary. Those trails haven't been named yet, and they're also not trails yet. Well, the secondary is mostly a trail. The primary isn't yet. And then tertiary is on the edge of Someday Field. That'll meet up with the main trail. But again, Someday Field doesn't exist, so I haven't made the trail yet. One thing at a time. I'm going to go get some stuff from the car so that as we go down to base camp, and you've mostly seen base camp, but at least I have a load down there. We're back at the car. I'm just going to talk about this land slightly to the north of Camp Road. It's actually pretty big. There's a couple acres total. It stretches all the way to the brook, and there's this one area that it's sort of like a peninsula. The brook kind of runs all the way out and around it, but it's really high up. I think I might have to go out there at some point to show you, because it's hard to explain, but there's 3 beautiful gigantic trees. And so longer term vision is that I will have a little tree house, and that's going to be a bit more comfortable than like the cabins. So that's going to be more of like a usable house, so that you know, as I get older, I might be able to stay out here for longer times and not have to worry about some of the challenges of more of a camp setting. Obviously all out here in the same place, but that won't be for, you know, another 13 years at least before it's even starting to draft it out and figuring out how to go about doing that. So long time from now. But as we go along, I should have pointed out the projects near the outhouse. There's going to be a shed, which is going to have all my tools and stuff. Not a walk-in shed, but just a hand-in shed. And I'll try to point out the things I'm doing along the way. All right, you've all seen me go down this, so we'll speed it up. Come on. I will admit, every time I come down here, I get a little nervous. Ever since that whole coming down here, and there's a gigantic tree, actually 4 trees on my campsite, including where the wall tent is. It wasn't there at the time, but had it been there, it wouldn't be good. But for now, everything's in perfect condition. So let's do a quick tour for those of you who have not been subscribers. This is the front, and we'll open that up and so you can see that in a second. This whole area you can see is still a lot of that little growth that's got to be cut. That was everything down here. This was very packed with small trees. So slowly over the last 2.5 years, it's been removal to make it seem like a open campsite. Over there is the counter that I'm working on, and I'll take the top off later. Probably not right now, but I can do it later, or splice in. I didn't take a video of the pouring the concrete because it was enormously difficult. This hill is what I love. I love being up there and looking down, and I love that it shelters you down here. There's no wind. This is what I mean about the microclimate. And over there, also a gigantic hill, and over behind the tent, also a gigantic hill that we just walked down. So it creates this whole like bowl effect. It's really quite nice. So it's kind of dark in here. I turned the lights on just to show around. See the pipes not in there. I'll put that in, but water was coming in through the seams, so, and filling up the stove, so I don't leave that in there anymore. That cooler is just to keep stuff protected from Monty, who still lives here. He's a mouse, and I've tried everything, and I think I've just decided that he lives here. My blanket, a couple things on the table here, drinking water, which is a little low. Next time I come, I'll have to bring some more. In the winter, that doesn't work, obviously, because it freezes. So what I'll do is I'll fill these larger pots with water, because then if they freeze, I can still put them on the wood stove and melt the water. No problem. Yeah, this is really it. Some lanterns and burn kit, first aid kit. This is my tent in the winter. In the summer, right where that clothesline is, I don't know if you can see that, but that's where my hammock goes, and I prefer the hammock in the summer, warmer months, but it's going to be 28 tonight, so I'll be sleeping in the tent with the wood stove going. So for those of you who subscribe, you know I have a rule, and this started way back at the open invite camping trip, which you had about a 1/4 mile hike from the parking lot. When you haul the first load in, you open the beer. Cheers. So when I first got started, this was all very forested with a lot of dead trees on the ground and rocks, and you can see some of them are kind of piled up over there because I keep pushing back for the shed. But I had probably 2 feet of snow, and when I built this with my friend, we built it right there on top of that gigantic rock. Well, one side was on the rock, the other side was not. Of course, we didn't know that. It was all flat snow, so it was fine for most of the winter until the spring came, and this side melted down and the whole thing toppled over. But even at that point, all of this was forested, so it's taken a long time. This whole area came down I think in August, with the help of my friend Courtney. It's really starting to come along, and it looks so different than when I got here. You can see the tree that fell is still there. And this was one of the things I kind of wanted to tackle today. But, you know, we'll do the tour. There's time. There's no rush. This will be a nice little area to go down to the brook later. I'll move the shed once I have more space in another spot. You can see this is still covered. The form did come off. We took the form off and took a look at it, but I put the form back on actually after a layer of plastic because I hadn't sealed it yet, and I didn't want it to get really stained and whatnot during the couple weeks I wasn't going to be here. So I brought the sealer to possibly do. I will do it. The question is when. It might be tomorrow morning. And then right now I just put the plastic over the opening. I'm sure that there are little rodents living in there right now, which is fine. I'll kick them out when I finish it. And this will be the next project video. Short of a couple pieces. Some of those videos are actually taken by my aunt because I forgot my GoPro once. And then the cement countertop I didn't film because I'd never worked with concrete before, and it was a whole lot harder than I thought. So I wanted to, planned on it, but when I started, I had to kind of focus on it. I should have gotten the camera ready beforehand, but you know. All right, I'm gonna finish my beer. I'm gonna swap out the propane tanks so that I can haul the old propane, the empty propane tank up, and we'll take you out to the Saco. Oh, one more thing. 3 new subscribers, so welcome. Now it's not 13, it's 16. I laugh, but the truth is, I don't really care. I'm not doing this for subscribers. I love that people are subscribing. I think it's great that some people are enjoying the content, but it's not why I'm recording all of this and sharing it with all of you. I'm doing that because everything I've learned to do out here, and a lot of things at home, I got from YouTube. People who were willing to share their skills and their mistakes and all of that with the world. And I just decided I would give back. So the filming of it is not about money. I don't make any money. If you see products reviewed, it's not because they sent them to me for free, or I'm getting a premium when you click on something. I don't do any of that. This is just about thanking the people that I've been watching for so many years, for sharing their journey with me and their knowledge and their skills. Thank you. And now I'll pass it along to someone else. Okay, ready to head up. Sorry, I've got allergies. So I guess I have to stand up for this. There's a trail that goes up that hill. And then you can go up to the top. So the top is where I fell in love with the land, and I'm going to show you that. I'm not going to go that way because I have to bring the sled and the propane back up, and I want to leave it at Deer Junction so that when we're coming back from the Saco, I can just go grab the rest of my stuff and come down for the night, versus having to come back down here first, go back up there. So I'll take the long way, plus you'll get to see the trail. Back at Deer Junction, looking up Camp Road. Outhouse Spur to the left, and then trail to the Saco, and again trail to base camp. We are taking the trail to the Saco this time. Huge thanks to my friend Courtney, who did amazing work clearing this. This was, you couldn't even tell there was a trail here before. I knew it was there, but no one else did. She did a great job. It does get a little dicey in here as you get further in, and this is to some degree what it looked like when Courtney kind of cleared that other area. Seeing a lot of displacement in the leaves. I'm trying to figure out if that's water movement or is it animals, people. My land is posted no hunting, but no, it's too widespread. It can't be people. Could be animals. These guys are huge, so hopefully someday I can harvest some of this for firewood, but right now they're in the way. So this is where it gets a little wonky, right? Because the trail just sort of ends at a kind of a strange spot. You know, there's nothing. So the primary trail will eventually continue down, and it'll meet up. All 3 of the trails eventually meet up. Because I don't own much land along the way, so pretty much a trail's worth. So they all do meet up, but I want to have this straightaway. This would be bigger for like a garden cart or a four-wheeler, while the secondary trail, which we're going to take today because it's much more established, this would be a walking path, footpath, because it's beautiful, and there's a couple of areas that just a little bit dangerous because you're on the edge of a cliff. Don't worry, I'll show you. So when I found this land, I was with my friend Maggie, and we got to that sort of end point. We didn't know what to do, but we heard water, and I thought it was the Saco because I knew the Saco was close. So we walked this very path trying to figure out where was that water sound coming from. And it was for sale. The land was for sale. There was a sign out. I hadn't told anybody I was coming out here, but you know. And then I came to this point and I saw this unbelievable brook. Now it's not really running. You can't hear it. You can hear a trickle. But look at this view. And I just imagined late nights having some beer, maybe playing dominoes on a deck up here overlooking this amazing space. After I'd sufficiently fallen in love, I got really angry because I decided there was no way, after all these years of searching for land, that I finally found a piece of land that seemed to tick all the boxes. There was no way I could afford it. 9 acres on the Saco with a whole brook, the entire northern boundary. This is crazy. Turns out the land was actually one of the cheapest plots of land that I looked at because there's no power on this road. So it's not a desirable plot of land for someone that might want a home or even a second home. But for me, this is just a camp. I've never had electricity at camp. Well, I can't say that because I do have electricity at this camp now. If you've been following me, you've seen my solar systems, because it turns out you need a little bit of power for something like a composting toilet. But that's beside the point. It doesn't need to be attached to the grid. There's no need for it to be attached. So for me, this truly was the perfect plot, not only because it has tons of water, it has tons of these amazing hills and features and really old trees, but also because it fit my budget perfectly. All right, let's continue. I'll speed this up because this is a bit of it's like a 10-minute hike, so. It's very difficult to see. Down there is the second to last stop on this tour. That is Sergeant's Camp. Sergeant's Camp will be a primitive camp right next to the Saco. It will have a fire pit, possibly a lean-to, some light supplies, maybe a fire wood holder, something like that. Nothing like base camp. This is because as base camp becomes more and more cushy, my desire to do real camping is going to keep going up. So haven't started on this and won't for a little bit, but this will be another little campsite. I'm also going to make it open to the public. So I'm going to put a sign that just says, you know, leave it better than you found it, because this is kind of a spot on the Saco that people stop. It's probably not somewhere anybody would camp because the dam is only about a mile up. So it means they'd have to, if they were coming on a longer trip, they just portaged from the upper part to the lower part, which I guess is possible, but usually people start or end there. So if you start a mile up, you're probably not stopping for camping. Well, we'll take it down to the Saco. It's different every time I come. Not just the water level, but the rock formations. The water level is really impacted by obviously the weather, but also the demand for electricity, because as the demand for electricity goes up, the dam lets more water out to generate more power. As the demand for electricity goes down, they keep more of it in the reservoir. So right now it's pretty low. You can see a lot of rocks down there, and a lot of times you can't see those rocks. This is getting dangerous. I have to put like a ladder there, so because I don't want to keep eroding the land. It's not a good idea. So, of course, here's the brook. It's called Sergeant's Brook, which is why I named the campsite Sergeant's Camp, named after Jim Sargent, who owned my land a long time ago. Oh, look at that. Oh, you can smell the seaweed. The dam is about probably 3/4 of a mile to a mile upriver. I think there's another dam like, I'd say it's like 12 miles, but I'd have to look that up. Sometimes this water is really warm, and today is not one of those times. In May, believe it or not, it's like swimmable. It's crazy. It's because the reservoir gets really warm with the sun hitting it, and the excess goes over the top, so you get a lot of really warm water. The problem with that is that you also get a lot of algae, which makes the rocks extremely slippery. So we have tied a rope to that tree, that big one bending out, and then you can kind of hang on to it and swim a little bit. But you can't like swim, but that's okay, because if you were to leave my driveway where my car is and go half a mile north, there's a huge like beach where the dam is, and it's public is allowed, so I go out there a lot if I want like a beach day. But this is it. I mean, a lot of cleanup needs to happen down here, a lot of firewood, because look at that's all held above ground, so that's going to be primo, but look how thick that is. I don't even have a chainsaw that big. So there's also what we lovingly refer to as a cat den, because it definitely looks like a cat den, and there are sometimes cat prints that come down. You can tell a cat print because you can't see the nails. They look like a dog or a wolf, except cat's nails retract. So if you don't see a nail in the print, it's usually some kind of a cat. I don't know what kind of cat. I'm not that good, but I know it's some kind of a cat. And oh no, I was gonna say, I went to grab my pocket knife and it was gone, or I thought. It's not. It's in my pocket. Made myself nervous. All right, guys, that is the land. I hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope you follow the vision and the project. I mean, it's going to take years. The plan is a 15-year plan. It's not short. So I hope you're patient. I work a full-time job during the week. That's why I'm not like some YouTubers who are able to kind of continuously work on their homestead or project. Although I love them and they have taught me everything so much. And if you want to check out some of the favorites, go look at the people I subscribe to and yeah, check them out because they're just amazing and have done amazing things and they've inspired me. So thank you all.